Okay, so your phone and your computer are not great tools to protect secrets. We all know this, okay? They're being hacked every day. And so we designed a tool to protect secrets. The way we do it is to use the chip and pin technology. So what you have on your credit card, we use this, and instead of protecting your bank secrets, now we protect your secrets. Because with crypto, what you have, is your Bitcoin, and it's yours. You can own it.
And so, how does it work exactly, though?
So it's really like the iPod. You remember the iPod and iTunes?
Yep.
So very similar here. In the iPod, you had your music. So in our products, the hardware products, you have your private keys. And iTunes was the software, companion software on your phone or your computer to change your music, do your playlist. And we have Ledger Live. And Ledger Live is where you can sort of program your money. You can buy, you can sell, you can swap, etc., and so on and so forth. So this is how it works.
How should people feel about those who are keeping their crypto in the cloud, if you will, or on an exchange? Good idea, bad idea?
Look, in general, crypto was designed so you don't have to suffer the third-party risk. You don't need to trust anyone with your money. So we believe that the ethos of crypto is to actually keep your money yourself, and this is where it's best secure. And actually, with the tools that Ledger has developed, it's a reality. So the advice is don't leave your money on an exchange and bring them to self-custody.
Yes.
Who was actually the inventor of the iPod? This is why I brought the iPod comparison.
And he's an unbelievable designer.
Exactly. And so we focus more on the product and the usage, and Tony apparently, and if you see him at work, he focuses on what would people do with it, and not so much whether they would speculate there, on Bitcoin or not.
How did you meet Tony, by the way? How did you get him involved in this?
Compared to Bitcoin, there are a lot of small differences here. For example, the outflows coming from Grayscale's ETH, I think, have been front-loaded compared to what we saw with the Bitcoin the Bitcoin ETF launch. Predominantly because, in the case of Bitcoin, we saw that there were several large entities who were restricted from selling their GBTC shares until they were approved by the courts. That's not the case with ETH. There are fewer entities who actually have those same circumstances, so they were not blocked from selling it early on. So I think that's one thing that we're getting. ProShares got their ETF application approved, but they didn't get to launch. And they're one of the largest holders in terms of people who hold their futures ETH ETF. So that transition away from futures in spot also didn't necessarily happen in the same way it did with Bitcoin. So I think that there are those kinds of small nuances that people aren't considering. 21 Shares and ARK, for example, like 21 Shares went on this ETH ETF alone. So, ARK, for example, included their Bitcoin ETF inside of many of their other funds. That didn't necessarily happen with the ETH ETF. I do think that once you see a lot of those issues kind of clear up, actually ETH looks very attractive as far as its performance over the last week, and B, what I would suspect the flows are going to look like in the week.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And make sure you go to TikTok, like, and follow. And these crypto wallets just didn't appear by chance. They were thought about a long time ago. The same with these digital assets. And who did Ledger say they were working with? The iPod creator. And we know Ledger not only is not protecting your secrets, they have a back door so they can get to your secret. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And yes, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and cryptos are taking a hit. But guys, we know at the beginning of the month is like clockwork. It's just a casino at the beginning of the month, because that's how they have it set up. And guess what we do? We follow the money. And I told you that stocks and cryptos would take a hit going towards the end of the year. And we keep hearing these drums are beating. So therefore, they can start running this money in the back door so they can start building this fourth industrial revolution. And how do they do it? By the Hegelian dialectic. And they play it right in front of your face. And one person did it right in front of your face on CNBC. J.D. Vance says that families with kids should have more votes. He gave you the good, he gave you the bad, and then try to direct you towards their solution. But guys, get yourselves in position like I stated, is like clockwork for next week. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
He also reiterated a number of times that they have a long amount of ammunition, a large amount of ammunition, if the economy does start to weaken. But what is interesting about, I think, the messaging from Jay Powell is he said that conditions in the labor market and in the economy broadly are sort of like they were pre-pandemic, on the doorstep of the pandemic. And yet the Fed funds rate is 525 basis points higher than that. Okay, I'll acknowledge the inflation rate is probably about 1% higher than it was prior to the pandemic, but that kind of means that there's a lot of room for them to cut short-term interest rates. Our inflation model suggests that based upon where the commodity prices are and what we expect from shelter to happen, that we could get a two-handle on the CPI. We already have it on the PCE, but we could have a two-handle. We could settle in even in the low twos. And if you have a positive real interest rate that's even 1.5%, that would suggest you have 150 basis points of room to cut rates without even thinking that you're being excessive about it. So I really think that we should expect to see the markets enjoy what the Fed said here, because they said not only could we cut rates at the very next meeting, but we could cut them a lot if we need to. And I think that's very heartening, particularly for the stocks that kind of got beat up, the high beta stuff, where interest rates cuts would probably be awfully helpful. I think they should have cut today, quite frankly. But, what difference does it make? 6 or 8 weeks or whatever it is, 7 weeks. I think the one thing that I find was funny when people asked about the political climate and saying, they don't want to be political, and September 18th is less than 2 months away from the election. I just think that's so laughable that if you cut rates 25 basis points, that would have any impact on presidential politics. I think if you ask the average American what the Fed funds rate is, they wouldn't even know that it's a number. They wouldn't even know what it means, let alone to know that it's at 5 3/8 today. So I just don't really think that that's very relevant. But I think this is a pretty reassuring press conference for the markets. I thought Jay was very well prepared. He even seemed over-prepared. I thought he was reading more of his remarks, and particularly in the answers to questions, he seemed to go to a script. But that's okay. He had a thread the needle, I guess he really had to do, because it's clear that the employment data is getting worse. That's pretty obvious. I mean, the quits rate is going way down. The unemployment rate is now 7/10 off its lows. It's being artificially suppressed by government hiring.
Republican vice presidential candidate Senator J.D. Vance proposed 3 years ago that parents get additional votes in elections based on how many children they have. Is that a good idea? John Ford is here to weigh in. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Melissa. Yeah, parents getting more votes is a good idea and not as radical as it sounds. First of all, let me give some context to what Senator Vance actually said. July 2021, at the Intercollegiate Studies Institute in Virginia, Vance pointed out that middle-class families with kids have more at stake in America's future and therefore should have more of a say in shaping it. Before you say that's outlandish, I'll point out that our tax code already has these kinds of leanings, offering parents tax credits and deductions for their dependent children. There's also a demographic reason to encourage Americans to have more children. If the U.S. doesn't do something about the sinking birth rate, over time we'll have an aging population that needs to be taken care of and too few young people to work and support them. It's a version of the economic problem China is grappling with now, a population of around 300 million people in the late stages of their careers who soon won't be so productive. Take any religious overtones out of it, and this is really just about incentivizing family formation, which the country will need to thrive in the decades ahead, Melissa.
Tax breaks are one thing, but increasing political power, I mean, that's a whole other dynamic here.
Well, yeah, Melissa. On the other hand, giving parents of minors more voting power is a horrible idea. Now, to start, it's blatantly unfair to people who are too young to comfortably have kids, too old to have minors in the house, or who live in a city too expensive to afford kids. On top of that, it would shift the political power at the state level to suburbs and rural areas away from younger urban professionals. And then it's practically unworkable. Say you got a family of 5, 2 parents, 3 kids. Which parent gets the 3 extra votes? Say you're a single parent or a step parent in a blended family or a foster parent with 6 dependents. Does that person get 7 votes? But really, the idea is flawed at the core, that people who have biological children automatically have more of a stake in the country's future. Half of active duty enlisted military personnel are 25 years old or younger, and I'd say they're pretty invested. Same goes for young teachers serving troubled schools. If we want to make parenthood more popular, maybe we could start with national plans for childcare and affordable, high-quality education. Melissa.
I know Andrew's got a lot to say about this.
I can't even. First, I give you credit for trying to make both sides of this argument. I think there's really only one side. I'm actually curious how hard it was for you to make the original case there.
Not too hard. I mean, if you look at the demographics, you can make all kinds of arguments for all kinds of policies, including immigration and younger people coming in, including education on one side. Young people tend to be more concerned about the environment. If you think that's serious, that's certainly an issue about the future. Maybe younger people should get more votes. So I think there are arguments to be made on both sides about having policies that take demographics in as a concern. It's just where you fall on the political spectrum.
Oh, no, by the way, I think incentivizing more children, look, is not a terrible idea. Doing it with votes, I'm not sure is the path. But
yeah, tax code is one thing, votes another. But there
my
are
2
people,
cents, and that's all they're worth.
Yeah, I mean, but after taxes, that 2 cents.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.